Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So one of the issues can arise around graduated teaching when you've got, particularly with Anapanasati, these 14 steps or 14 trainings, 16 actually, 4 sets of 4. Sets a particular mood in the mind, like, okay, this and then that, and then get to this, then go on to that. How do I get to this? How do I get to that? This and then that. And it sets a particular mood in the mind. It's rather like, if you're leaving your kuti, you're going to the kitchen. You think, okay, go to the kitchen, chop the radishes, and try this and that. It's actually a planning mind, strategizing mind. And it forms a track called becoming. This becoming is like a mobile track that we seem to be running down in our lives. There seems to be a track that we're running along, it's moving along, and we're chasing it. And it's got a point at the end of it called satisfaction, which you never quite arrive at, because the track keeps moving. Becoming. And so very much, the structure of our normal, say, worldly lives is based on this. Get this, go to school, get the degree, then you can get this, you can get that, you can get promotion, you can get moved up the ladder to the next, and then the golden pinnacle, and then and then. And there's a lot of push goes into that track, isn't there? This and that, this and that, this and that. Progress, we call it. And generally the theme is, well, actually faster would be better, if possible. So we can get to the next thing, in the sense of, the secretary was saying the other day, they received an inquiry saying, is he have it available? He said, no, he's meditating now. Oh, when will he finish meditating? Oh, probably about 6 hours' time. Can't he hurry up? If you breathe faster, maybe you could get through the meditation. There's a commodification of experience, isn't it? Everything gets commodified, this and that, and then they get the result. And then that's over, and then the next thing. This is becoming, and it's flavoured with craving. called bhavatanha, craving for becoming a bhavasava. This bhavasava is its influence, what I call the leak, where an idea hits the citta, and it's generally an idea, hits the citta, and it opens, and its energies pour out. This is asava. And it pours out, and then this, and then that, and again this, and then that, moving on. See, so that's such a normal track for people to be following, without lives or education. Hurry up to get to the end result. Without really considering it, we read that into the teachings. That's the way we understand it. You know? And particularly a teaching which presents this and then that, and then this comes from that, and then this comes from that, cause and effect. But there's this difference between natural cause and effect, things give rise to consequences, which is a natural feature of heart processes. If you stay with a skillful thought, it gives rise to a happy mood. Can't say hurry up. I've had this skillful thought for 5 seconds, where's the good mood? You know, that messes it up, doesn't it? Hurry up and relax. Yeah. You see the kind of the way these two themes actually clash. One is about becoming, the other is about fruition. You know, things when they're ripen flow into the next, and so often we've got to remind ourselves, it's not ready yet, it's not cooked yet, it's getting there, just keep warming it, and then, you know, you can't scorch it, you can create the prime conditions that will actually lead to that ripening. And that's more the process that I understand in these sequential teachings. And the Buddha was very keen on that process. You know, when he gave his outlines for how one should teach, the 5 conditions should be set up, 5 reflections. One is teach step by step, anupubing. Pubi means, particularly the anu means together with or associated with, pubi means really one step at a time. Get the first step right. Yeah. And so some of his teachers are called anupubikita. They're actually teachers give you the one step, and the most important thing is get the first step right, and then that will. And then pariyaya dasavi, presenting a course or a track, and so this is really to do with. And once you've got your feet on the ground and you've got the right way to walk, then feeling the territory, you'll find a way. So it's much more a way, a lived way, a trail rather than a road. And you can imagine in India, you know, that time, trails are really in accordance with the land, what the land would allow. You have to weave around a bog, you have to go zigzag up and down an incline. You might get a straight patch along a river valley, but it's going to be in line with the territory. So you move around, you weave. And these teachings are called discourses, pariyaya. They weave around a particular theme. You know, but you're staying in touch with the actual lived reality of what occurs when you take that one proper step and see where it goes and how it goes. We use the image of walking, barefoot walking on earth, That means, your feet have to know when the ground is solid or spongy or sharp. Yeah. That will affect how you carry your body and the rate at which you walk. So that would be the way of walking, is very much barefoot on the ground, is harmonious with the territory one is walking through, and your body's not separate from it. You're linked in. And it means you're sensitive. You can't just blindly surge ahead, right? Which we can do on paved roads with signs, and often completely blind as to where we're going, oblivious, with one aim in mind to get to the end point. Walking through a forest, you can have that idea you want to get to the village, but that's got to be way at the back of your mind. The main thing is to get your feet on the ground and watch where you're going. So that finding a course, these are two conditions. So also you teach without aim for personal gain, so it's pure. You teach with a friendly. And you teach without negativity, without criticizing yourself or criticizing others. So it's a very pure, friendly approach. This is the way the Buddha taught, and this is the way we should follow. So there are certain fruitful qualities that are present there. One is that reminder to get your first foot on the ground, place it solidly, follow the course, at your own pace, pure intention, not grabbing, gaining, devoid of tanha, friendly, warm-hearted, and non-critical, not negative, not punitive. So when the Buddha taught like that, that's the way we should follow, isn't it? So as it's often the Buddha himself mentioned, your first step is get your sila together. Get your virtue, your ethical, relational sensitivity together. Don't be in a hurry. Work on it. Even while you're doing, wherever you're going, keep working on it. Keep working on it. Your tendency to see others with harsh, condemning attitudes. Keep working on it. And get very steady till the heart loses the path to negativity. It forgets the path, the course of blaming and criticizing and negativity. You've gone down that path so few times it's kind of got lost. Instead, there's a path of patience, kindness, equanimity, generosity of heart. Okay, maybe she was having a bad day, okay, if I was stressed out, okay, what do I need to get negative and irritable about in other people's behaviour? Why let it affect me? Get that established. Because this is going to immediately release a whole load of the burdens that we carry around. The heart becomes unburdened. Of course, it improves your ways of regarding others, but also it's just to liberate the heart from carrying a whole load of unnecessary weight that does you no good at all. Place your heart in in the context of the triple gem, devotion. So something that asks you to rise up. And so very often in our practice we cultivate like this. We have shrines, images, we create occasions which ask us to rise up. They're not, supremely exactly, fits my easiest mood. It means I actually have to rise to it. I want something that asks me to come lift, lift a bit. Because there's something beautiful to lift to. If you're going to be in the presence of the Buddha, show up. And show up like you're in the presence of the Buddha. Then you will hear the Buddha's teaching. If you don't show up in that way, your ears aren't going to be open. Your heart's not going to be open. There's quality then of respect. And another aspect of sila. And what does it do? It shifts us into that heart domain rather than onto sense fields, sights, sounds, even our ideas. I don't figure this, I don't see the point of that, it doesn't make sense to me, gibbering mind. No, it's just like, just get a feeling for the beautiful, the sacred, the worthy in yourself and in others. Tune into that. Then you're going to lift. Heart's going to lift. Citta's going to lift. Then you're in the right territory. You've awakened the very form of intelligence that is that which is both defiled or corrupted, leaking, broken, and also needs to be healed and strengthened, and also will throw off the fetters of craving and attachment and suffering. Citta. So this is our first step, you could say. Get it right, keep returning to it. And you see in so many of these teachings, of which I've just pointed a few, it starts like that. Get the heart right. And then as you get the sense of something lifting, tune into how it's affecting your body. And then when you're getting that, then the body becomes steady, stable, bright. Then that feeds back. It strengthens and stabilizes the heart, because the body, when it's this body, this internal body, this somatic quality, when that's strong and bright, it acts like a guardian and protector around the heart, and it also gives its energies to the process of liberation. So the body then, instead of being something that is a burden, becomes its energies and its strength actually get transmitted through rapture into the heart's territory. We feel held, we feel lifted, we feel enthused. And it vibrates, you feel it in your tissues. So that acts like a kind of a force field where other stuff just doesn't get in. And the Buddha is saying, one who's cultivated this level, there's not one part of one's body that isn't pervaded, drenched, suffused with the pleasure that comes from withdrawal. Withdrawal from unskillful states, withdrawal from the activity of the sense fields. This process of bringing the body online is where I draw attention to the four satipatthana, because this is where the body is placed at first. Maybe, maybe it's not first, but, in a bigger picture it's not the first thing, but when we come to this level, it's having arrived at the proper place, establish the heart in the right context, then we can bring the body in. And I think this is really important because, say, often we go to a meditation retreat, then the first thing is the manager gives the talk, the do's and don'ts, and the next thing is you just kind of sit there in your pain. And the bit about revering the Tathagata is kind of like, oh, so yeah, well, we don't do that anymore because it's kind of a bit religious. Oh well, and just sit there squirming or dealing with sleepiness and fatigue because the body isn't ready for it yet. After 3 or 4 days you may be getting there, but the body's not ready yet. Still carrying all this impacted stress, so you've got to pick the heart up first and kindle it, and then in place these satipatthanas come in. And here, just review it yourself by all means, but the Buddha talks in terms of whole body walking, standing, sitting, reclining, with no specific detail. And I imagine if he thought specific detail was important, he would have told us, but he doesn't. And yet, this is, thousands of discourses. You think he might have said it once, but he doesn't. So, body walking, standing, sitting, reclining. And so as an encouragement, certainly from my way of experiencing, to kind of widen the focus. And one again can speculate, but you can imagine in a culture where there wasn't very little writing, no clocks, the normal mode of attention wasn't the kind of scrutiny that we use when we read books, which is very much quite narrow visual focus, right? Or signs. And you run to the end of the line, because one letter doesn't make sense. It's only when you run to the end of the line you get it. So you're both, an attention that both narrows and scurries to the end of the line to get the meaning. And that will be our normal way of receiving transmission or learning something. But when you take you back to the time of the Buddha, right, and that method isn't there. You don't scrutinize a tree when you go into a forest. You keep your eyes wide open, your ears are open, your body's relaxed, you're sensing in quite a wide way, where's the safe, where's the comfortable, where's it cool, where's it even. So there's a whole wide field of perception where minute scrutiny would be perhaps even dangerous. You get the whole picture. Okay. And then you might notice within that what particular detail you need to see right now. And that's more like, that's secondary. The first thing is get the whole thing. So whole body. And again, I guess for most of us, certainly for myself, that is quite a big shift, because mostly my attention lives around my eyes and head. And I see things through the simple concept system. But when you go to the whole body, there's a certain almost relief and release, because your attention isn't tight. But sometimes you just get very spun out because it's not firm. You're not used to maintaining that kind of focus, so your mind drifts because it's used to following data, discrete data. So you go to the whole body and your mind skips off to some particular thing to get caught up in or obsessed by. And then you've got to go back, and you've got to feel the contraction when it happens. Not just the topic, but the kind of funneling down, the tunnel vision that occurs when you do that. The mind tunnels in and then pop out of the tunnel. Oh, big picture. And whenever you go into that tunnel, you can call it the ego tunnel, because the tunnel will be formed out of one's particular karmic, specific concerns and obsessions and, tastes and craving for that object. So the tunnel is an action of attention that drags intention into a craving mode and places it on an object, which isn't here. It's an object that I want to have here, or I want to make to another way. You come out of that, it's like this. Pop. And you land back in the body. As it walks, or stands, or sits. And if we use the walking body, because it's something that will probably more readily engage a wider field of attention, and there's sights and sounds, but it's not that wide, it's a bit closer than that. It's just this sense of this moving form, and a moving balance, because even though it's moving, and to the point where it's standing on one foot, it doesn't lose balance. Can you imagine that? 60, 70, 80 kilos of meat poised on one little plate, which is about 8 inches, 9 inches long. And you don't even have to think about it. The body does it. And it swings its weight from one leg to another, and the swinging of it. When you get into walking, you can recognize it's not just about going forward, it's about cultivating the proper swing and fluidity of the body that keeps it balanced and fluid. Because, of course, the walking is kind of secondary to wheels, and wheels land on roads, which generally go as straight as possible. We lose some of that involved quality. You can completely abstract it from the surface you're travelling down. And when you're not abstracted from it, actually physically connected to it, just notice how the body adjusts according to the nature of the terrain, but it always maintains balance and fluidity, and it's comfortable. And that comfortable quality of balanced, fluid, in touch, it's not straining, it's not faltering. Your citta picks that up. Oh, this is nice. This is an enjoyable walk. I feel comfortable. And walking establishes our autonomy. There can be, we're not just driven along, or dragged along, or even dragged along by our good ideas. We're actually an autonomous, connected but autonomous, and the citta picks that up too. I've got potential. So these flavourings that can occur, you see, the citta then, I can trust that. We're not gripped, but we're not driven. and you're in that flow which itself will give rise to further fruitions with no further volition required. You don't have to push it. You don't have to get anywhere. You don't have to be good at it. You don't have to be fast. You just have to be in touch, and it will work for you. Yeah? And just this sense of what a gift this is, this quality, and a teaching that can take us into that. And when we do sitting, sitting, so what does he say? Here one goes into the forest, quiet place, away from the babble, away from the cave, away from the pressures. Sits at the root of a tree. Root of a tree in India, shade, out of the blazing heat. Covered, safe, discreet, safe, comfortable, sheltered. Chitta picks that up. Make sure when you sit you carry a tree with you. And what does that tree remind you of? Upright, rooted in the ground, upright trunk, canopy. Oh yeah, you want to be a tree. And why not? Since in this teaching we're taught to become like lakes and rivers, why not? And branches and root and foliage, why not become a tree? Okay. In terms of citta, why not? Because the citta, see, really receives, it doesn't actually receive data in the same way that the other senses do. The other senses are visual, auditory, tactile and so forth. They receive particular discrete phenomena, and the mind labels them and selects which one or which mixture to then present to the citta. So the manas, manovinyana, scrutinises all the sense fields, including itself. No, this is what I'm going to report. Forget the birds, forget the earth, forget the rain. Remember, there's Jim. That's the important point. And it selects the particular topic, and it pops that into the citta by way, and it's a signal. It's a signal, it's called a nimitta. There's my friend, ding. Or there's my enemy, ding. So then the citta then comes up with an emotional response. That's the way it works. And that emotional response sets up the mode in which we're going to approach that particular object. So citta isn't really connected to sense data directly, except through this method of signalling called perception, sanya. Sanya is a sign, significance, and nimitta, which means sign. So these two words associated with how the citta picks up its triggering. And of course, a lot of that is psychological. We see someone, we think, oh, there's my boss. Alarm. There's the person who's going to criticize me. Fear. There's the person who's going to look after me. Start to get lean on something, or whatever. Or even perceptions of ourselves get triggered. Here I am, the one who doesn't fit in. Here I am, the one who can't do it. Here I am, the person who has to do it all. So this triggering sets up the modality of the citta's sankharas, its intentions. That's why generally, when you go to other people's monasteries, as abbot, other people's monasteries are fine, because when I'm not the abbot, suddenly I think, oh, it's great. place is falling down, it's very great. Because I'm not carrying it. Because one signifies oneself in accordance with different situation. You look at the abbot and he's kind of, there's all this and that, and then going on, busy, this and that. Think, you've got a great place here. Because, of course, he's getting triggered by all the things that have to be done. And as a visitor, I don't get any of that. So my triggering is different. And the perception that arises dependent upon that triggering. And that, is that how we create our world. Is to notice this. It's not. It's an induced called manomaya. Manomaya. All dhammas are manomaya. Maya is a weaver. Like the word maya means a certain kind of illusory quality to it. The dream weaver. Manomaya. We weave the dreams without even realizing it. Some of them are nightmares, of course. As they come out. So then actually, realizing the triggering of the citta, you're getting the right place, and then you place, triggering or signs and qualities that will be supportful for a fruition. And this can be done through the thinking mind. That which can organize. We're called, so vitaka vichara, these two terms, vitaka, vichara, these are translated, you've seen them translated as initial thought and secondary thought, or thinking and pondering, which most of us feel, this sounds the kind of thing I don't want to be doing, because that's what I'm doing most of the time, and it's driving me nuts. But it's not actually thinking in the way that we understand it. For us, thinking is this kind of flood of words. Thinking is the flood of words. Vitaka vichara refers to that which enables you to think. So it's called having this quality, this process, vitaka vichara, then one bursts into speech. Because of this, one is able to generate thought. So it's the kind of turning of an energy that can give rise to thought. And what does this particularly do? Vitaka, it places attention on something. Go to that point. Vitaka, it's a light touch. And then you, having placed, resonate with it. How's that feel? Touch it. How's that? How's that? How's that? So that's called contemplative thought. Whereas, our normal way of thinking would be think this and then think the next thing. So say, okay, go to the root of a tree. Think, root of a tree, what kind of tree? Which is the best tree to sit under? A big one or a small one? A tropical pine, or should I get an Indian tree? No, wait a minute, get to the idea, tree. What kind of, no, not quite a tree, just feel tree. So it arrests the flood of thought and places it, and it opens up the mood. Which is a very different process than one of the linear running along a line. You touch it, so you open up. How is that? Then you get touching the citta and then opening it up. How does that feel? Vitaka vichara. So then you can apply very small thought, very small process of placing. And here how's the body? Before one scurries to the next series of conceptual definitions, what tells you have a body? Pause. It's a daft question. Well, how do you feel it? Kind of firm, earth. Warm, yep. Fire. Something moving, yep, that's air. It's kind of, when it flows along, that's called water. Okay, you've got a body. That's the felt impression. There goes the hair, there goes the teeth, there goes the nails. All that stuff that really is irrelevant disappears. You just got something quite beautiful, natural, and also quite intimate and yet anonymous. Okay, now you've got the right body. And start a step at a time. Earth. Get the firmness, get the spine. You can track not just the conceptual description, just the sense of the firmness and how that is naturally. And the spine is itself is fluid. That means it's got a curve to it, and how it properly does its job of holding the body up from the cranium right through the tail, whole thing. Okay, getting that foundation. The warmth, the vitality, the body. So the heart is something feels comforted by. The air blowing through, breathing, fluidity. It flows in, it flows out. Like a tide, it flows out, it comes to a pause, and then it flows back. That's the course of the breathing, isn't it? So it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like an idea, though you could measure it like that. It's actually track the course, what it does when it's in a body. Stay with that. The full course of it, from its crests to its peace troughs, when it slows down, empties out, till it's almost open, absent. And the mind has to listen very deeply and wait. And then something returns. So you get that movement into something trackless, where the willpower and the conceiving has to stop. And that's a big part of it, of the teaching. It's where your mind cannot weave anything. And you get the silences. This territory of space and silence, which something can feel that. The citta feels that, it feels delighted and opened, rather lost than hungry. You follow the course. So all this is using the citta sensitivity, which is more felt experience rather than conceived experience, but using the conceiving mind just to that, as the Buddha says, that which is necessary for mindfulness and bare knowing. Jnana muttam, or bare awareness, just this open, aware. That's it. And then, then you can begin to track feeling, how one satipatthana flows into another. It's there, but this becomes more predominant. When the body is properly established, the feeling quality becomes more to the fore. And you have these, say, it's called two kinds of feeling comes into this. So there's accuracy, there's what's called samisa and niramisa. This is translated as worldly and non-worldly, or sometimes corporeal and non-corporeal. But actually, Although I can understand the reasoning behind it, the word really means with flesh and without flesh. Samisa, niramisa. Now, if you actually consider the Cittaviveka taking place within the body, this makes sense, if you really understand body. Because you have the body which is associated with basically the physical structures, which experiences feeling based upon sensory impact on the tissues, and you have niramisa, feeling which is associated with the fine sensitivity of the body's nervous system, its vibrancy, its balance, its poise, its freedom from tension. This is not associated with that which is of the meat. This is associated with subtle intelligence. The body is built in. And you can experience the different kinds of pleasure. Now, when you're doing sitting meditation, the pleasure is not going to come from the physical. It's going to come from the non-physical. And this can be accessed within this very body, and the citta can sense it. Thinking mind finds it difficult because it's a subtle, it's not in its normal range. We might say when you're feeling, your body, the degree of weightiness or lightness or buoyancy or tension, that's the description of the energy in it. If it feels heavy, the energy's tight. And if the energy gets purer, the body feels very light. Physically, it weighs exactly the same. But the felt experience, the body feels light, open and bright, because the energy is become smoothed out and steadied through breathing in and breathing out, which is the fundamental moderator of it. And then one can enjoy that. So that Satipatthana leads you into citta, step by step. This is the course. This is the process. But you can, not to say this is the only way one can cultivate, but it's a very, certainly the Buddha presented it. And even walking, something like walking, which is easier perhaps on the tissues than sitting a lot. And walking should not be kind of underestimated or just seen as a break from sitting. A chance because your knees can't hack it anymore. It's a very useful, because with walking you're in the situation which you're in most of the day. That is, you're aware of things around you. You're in a situation that's potentially interactive. There's people and birds and trees and cars. And you're just moderating the degree to which you go out of that. You're picking up the signals of urgency, the signals of beauty, the signals of dirty, the signals of things that need to be done, the things that whatever. You're picking up those signals. Okay, it's a signal. Right now, just stay on track with this. So you're using this kind of process of really adjusting your world so you're not driven by it. You're not pushed by it. You can make a course through that in accordance with your own capacities and your own intentions. What you do. And you can see also that step at a time, literally a step at a time. How do you make one step? If you notice, give it a bit of attention to it, proper walking. You need to get to standing, establishes balance, and you want to keep that balance. So you're going to, as you walk, you're going to shift your weight to one leg, and there's going to be something that occurs between the foot of the other leg and the haunch. behind the back of the pelvis, there's going to be a signal that occurs, whereby the foot starts to ready itself and the back of the pelvis, the haunch, starts to pull, the leg comes up. Then you swing, the pelvis has to swing to turn the leg forward. Yeah. As the pelvis swings, the shoulder has to kind of slightly incline back so we don't lurch forward. So that as the left side of the pelvis comes forward, the left shoulder kind of holds back, so it's a smooth, gradated walk. And ideally, when you're walking, you can check it, because at any point you should be able to stop and keep balance. So you can stand and have your leg in the air, and it's not you feel balanced because your shoulder, upper body is holding the weight. Then walking has no weight in it. There's no lurch, there's no crash, there's no thudding on, there's no stumbling. It's fluid, it's graceful. As you come down, you feel that foot touching the ground, it feels the ground, and the body knows exactly how much weight that ground can carry. And you get the signal. In the foot, the signal is rising, the back of the leg picks up that signal and lifts the leg. And you feel this, the way the body does it is something to study. And the Buddha said, when you do walking meditation, the kind of samadhi you get from this lasts a long time. It's enduring, it's long, it lasts long because the whole body has kind of got the messages of that, and it's established it. So the Buddha has taught these ways, step at a time. Of course, we have time. Some of these steps have been laid out for us by the Buddha. The course has been laid out for us by the Buddha. It's now time for us to do our proper walking, breathing, and following the Tathagata's footsteps.